Class, welcome to Small Business Management Week 5, and we're going to talk about operations this week. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and move us over to our course for the week. All right, this week we have a Week 5 lecture here, and we are going over chapters 10 and 11, which discuss different areas of operations of our business. Or any small business for that matter. And for that, I'll be going over a PowerPoint and going over some other topics as well. Homework for this week is going to consist of your, or graded work that is going to consist of your main reply to the Week 5 discussion by Thursday, February 4th, and a reply to a classmate by Sunday, February 7th. And then your homework is two different assignments. One is your business plan portion of your assignment, which is all about the operations of your business for your small business plan. And then we have a Week 5 logo assignment where you're going to get a chance to make a logo. I will go over all of those different assignments in our presentation today. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing the presentation with you for today. All right, so chapters 10 and 11, all about operations. And we're going to start off with legal concerns when it comes to the operations of your business. Legal concerns are huge because lawsuits, fines, those are expensive and they honestly can make a business go out of business. So it's important to stay out of court and stay on top of any legal concerns. So first off, let's understand the importance and necessity of professional legal advice from the start. If any of you were in my Business 101 class in the fall, I had a speaker, Gretchen Allen, and she owns a CPA firm here in town. And that was the biggest piece of advice she gave to all of the students, was to make sure that you have a team to start your business, which would include legal, somebody that you can go to for legal matters. For businesses that don't have accounting knowledge, you also need to have an accountant or a book, somebody knowledgeable of accounting on your team as well. But since she's an accountant herself, she says that she talks to clients and really emphasizes the need to have somebody on board as far as a legal team goes, somebody that you can go to. I know at my last job, the owner had a retainer on file with a lawyer that could help him with business concerns at any given time. And he did use them every once in a while. It was much easier than to either risk getting sued or spend hours and hours researching something that the lawyer knew right off the bat. Okay. And so another reason why it's important and helpful to have that legal person from the start is they can help you determine what form of business you want to do, whether it be a sole proprietorship, a partnership, limited liability company, an S Corp, or a C Corp. There's different accounting treatment for your company type or for your form of business. And then there is a different, legal things with each, for instance, a C corporation requires a lot more legal paperwork be set up in order for it to be a legal entity versus a sole proprietorship. Doesn't really require the same paperwork. A sole proprietorship, the income flows right down to the owner and is taxed at the owner's tax rate. A C corporation actually pays taxes as a corporation. And if they decide to pay out any dividends to the owners would then also pay taxes at their own rates on those dividends. Those are the big two types and the big differences there. The other entities here, We have partnerships, that's more than one owner. We have a limited liability company, which gives you that limited liability where you're not your personal assets are not on the line. A sole proprietorship, you're in partnership, traditional partnership, you have personal liability for your business. Under a limited liability company and a C Corp, you don't have that limited, or you have limited liability, meaning that if something happens to your business, they can't go after your personal assets. And same with an S Corp. So all things to consider, and thus your legal accounting team are great to consult on this, because once you have your entity set up, you're not going to want to switch back and forth and be like, oh, now I want to be a C Corp. Oh, no, now I'm going to be an LLC. It's not something you switch around. You can go from a sole proprietor kind of and make it into a corporation, but you're not going to want to, jump around too much. And again, you're not going to be able to go to all different entity types. Another thing I want to mention, and I've seen some people's business plans include this, is a nonprofit, while their goal is not to earn a profit, so it makes them a little different from a business, they are run very similar to businesses. And again, so those with business plans that are nonprofits, you'll follow the same steps, but you will be set up as a nonprofit instead of a legal entity form that we just discussed. And then also today, we're going to go ahead and just look at some family business things that can come up, because family businesses are very common because a lot of times you have common interests, you have people that you can rely on for help. I know in my last class, I had a student, that had a plan for a family business, and they had set roles that each of them were going to have in the business. And then also within the legal issues is things like copyright information, trademarking, licensing, all those kind of things that, again, I guess are legal, not concerns, but things where legal advice is helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward now. As I talked about, hiring an experienced attorney, yes, they're expensive. Yes, they require a retainer, but that expense up front can save you tons of money down the road, and not getting sued or having to scramble around, pay that retainer anyway, or, making a bad decision and having them have to find your way out of that. So the first step is to create the right business structure, which again, it's helpful to talk to an attorney about that. And it's helpful to maybe even bring in an accountant on that as well, because it just depends on the business and your personal situation, what is the right business structure. Another thing that's helpful to have an attorney for is to review advertising and marketing materials to make sure that you're not, stealing someone else's slogan or graphics or anything, but also to make sure it's not misleading to where you could get sued for false advertising. They can also, this might be for a bigger business, but help you organize your human resources department. For those of you that likely won't have a human resources department, you do need to make sure you're following labor laws, et cetera, when you hire employees. So that's another place where having an attorney is helpful. And that's where my last business, he did use them for his lawyer for some human resources questions, just because that's an area you want to make sure that you double check your advice. And so I helped out with human resources, but it was nice to have a lawyer to consult as well. So you want to make sure that you research and protect yourself. And we talked about advertising and human resources. Product liability is another huge one. If you have a product, especially like a food product or a manufactured product, or even a service, if something happens and it hurts your customers, like it was a faulty product, you have some liability there. So you need to make sure you protect yourself in case something were to happen. Also, a lawyer is helpful to review your contracts and agreements before you sign. Super helpful there. I know at the business I worked for, the owner did that as well, because sometimes there was some, what do I want to call it, some wording that could really get you in trouble unless you reviewed it and really looked at it. I know that at that business, he signed a rental agreement that was very bad. It really was not in his best interest. And then once he signed it, it was kind of too late. Had he had the lawyer review that, maybe that situation wouldn't have happened. All right. Also, you want to protect any intellectual property. That would be things like any trademarks, service marks, copyrights, or patents directly in relation to your business, or, you know, when you license your product. Again, that's intellectual property when you license it. And if you were to have any collection or bankruptcy problems, collections, you know, amongst clients or collections towards you. And they help you plan an exit strategy. Like, let's say I'm starting a business now, but I want to retire 15 years from now. They help you kind of plan for that as well. Or if things don't go well, they can help you with an exit strategy as well. If you're in a partnership, they can help you with your partnership agreement, make sure it's legal and good to go. Buy-sell agreements, like with suppliers, you know, those are all examples where you may need or want to use legal advice. The best way to pick a lawyer is to interview them. For businesses, you probably want to pick a lawyer that's like a business lawyer, perhaps. You know, maybe not a divorce lawyer for, you know, your small business concerns, because that's not their specialty. Concentrate with those that have experience in your industry, if possible, if they especially work with restaurants, for instance. In a smaller town, you know, you might just look for someone with business that works with business law. You could contact your state bar, and, you know, you can review info that they might have on file for your attorneys. You could actually make an appointment and interview them. Sometimes they'll meet with you for free for, you know, a minimal amount of time. And make sure you discuss fees and costs up front. Lawyers are usually pretty good about that. They'll tell you, like, you need to have a retainer of this much and I'm this much per hour. But make sure you're both clear on that so there aren't surprises. And again, it is expensive, especially law advice is probably more expensive than accounting advice or accounting work. But unfortunately, it's kind of like insurance. It's just something you need, and it will help you in the long run to, you know, maybe not cost you your business due to a lawsuit or something down the road. All right. So what we talked about that they can help you with, one thing is the organizational structure of your business. Some things to think about there, whether you want to have like a small business, like a sole proprietor, or a partnership, or a bigger one, which would be like a corporation, is your plans for growth. If you are planning to grow this quite large, you might want to consider a corporation if you're not planning on keeping it, you know, just your business like a sole proprietor. Tax implications, we talked about those, and liability issues with the different business formats. Again, something to talk about an accountant and lawyer with. Family member involvement or relationship with potential partners. If you have a family business, you know, that's going to influence how you structure your business. Capital requirements and exit strategy, you know, depending on how much money you have or how much money you're going to be trying to get together, whether you want to have partners in there. Same with exit strategy. You know, if you're a sole proprietor, your exit is, you know, you're no longer in existence. I have a video here on the different forms of business ownership. This was covered in Business 101 class. For those of you that have taken that, I believe most have. If you have not, though, review this video. It does give a good review of different types of business structure, just the basics of each different type. All right, and evaluating business structures. Sole proprietorship, that's the first one. A lot of small businesses start that way because they're easy to form and set up. You don't need a lawyer necessarily right away, but you need to make sure that you know that you have unlimited liability, meaning they can go after your personal assets. And the taxation considerations is that you are taxed at your personal income tax rate for any sole proprietor income or loss. Being your own boss as a sole proprietor can lead to long work hours. You don't have people to fill in for you or make decisions, those kind of things. So it's kind of nice to be your own boss, but at the same time, you don't have a lot of backup and help. Partnerships, again, the basic partnership level does not have a shield from legal liability either. And it is also taxed like a sole proprietorship. The partnership income gets divided up to each partner and is taxed at their individual income levels. The main advantage is that you have a partner in it. Hopefully they have some skills to highlight along with yours, and you have someone to help you make decisions and help you run the business. There is something called a limited partnership, or like an LLP. That's where you can set that up and limit the liability of partners. A limited partnership has where we limit the liability of partners that maybe don't want the management role. So maybe somebody wants to give you capital for your business, but it doesn't have the time to help you actually run your business. They could maybe become a limited partner. Formal agreements are optional under a partnership, but very highly recommended, because then you know exactly who gets what, share of profits, and who is putting in what money and what amount of time, those kind of things. And you should think about what happens if one of the partners decides they don't want to be a partner anymore, those kind of things. And again, the nice thing here is you have a partner to help you, but you are also liable for their actions. So some questions to ask if you want to start a partnership. Who's going to manage or control the business? How are you going to resolve disputes? Who's donating or who's financially contributing what amounts of money? Who's going to be contributing what amounts of time to the business? What happens if somebody needs to, leave the business? What happens if we decide we want a new partner? What is our communication style going to look like here? And we bring up just the specialized idea of family members. If it's a partnership and they're partners, we can just treat them like a regular partner. But if they're employees, and you need to just make sure you're on board with all your partners on how family members are going to be treated as employees and what their input is into the business. And again, ethics plays into every business decision, so keep that in mind as well. What is ethical in your decision making? All right, limited liability companies. These are super popular nowadays. They're called LLCs. There's no limit to the number of investors. They allow the profits to be distributed other than proportional as a pass-through entity. So it gives you that option to not pass it through to the owners. So that's the tax flexibility. But at the same time, it also gives you the limited liability feature of corporations. It's the required documentation is less than a C Corp. So that's really the biggest difference here. They're a little easier and less cumbersome to set up than a C Corp, and they give you that tax flexibility and the limited liability. Corporations, you might think, well, why would you want to incorporate? The biggest one is to limit your liability. However, we do have those other business forms that you can use to limit your liability. Again, to change your tax picture, maybe you do not want the income flowing to your personal tax return. You could possibly, it upgrades your image because now you're, bigger, I guess, when you think of corporation, you think bigger, growth. To guarantee continuity, once you die doesn't mean that the corporation dies, but in a partnership or a sole proprietor, it does end that sole proprietorship or partnership. To offer internal incentives, that would be like giving your employees maybe an incentive to own shares of your business, to be able to raise additional capital by maybe selling stocks. That's a big reason to incorporate. And then we have subchapter S. Those are all kind of like a corporation, but not quite. So we call it semi-corporate. They also have a limit on the owner's liability while allowing losses to pass through to personal income taxes. So that's a benefit, that the losses can flow to the individual owner's income taxes. And if you want to see that, that's in the IRS code, talks about how the entity will be taxed. In this case, there is a maximum number of shareholders. So that's maybe one reason you would rather incorporate than do an S Corp, is if you wanted to have a lot of shareholders. If you weren't expecting that many, an S Corp is a definite option. It's going to require a little bit more paperwork than that limited liability company option. It's more like a corporation, but again, it's a semi-corporation. You can only go up to 100 shareholders. Nonprofit, limited liability for a nonprofit, that's a bonus, and unlimited life. So it can continue even if you do not. Many nonprofits have to raise financial resources, even though they are not for profit, they still need money to operate. Many will sell products or services to support nonprofit activities. So in that sense, it's like a business. It's just that it's nonprofit. And as I said, oftentimes it's actually hard to distinguish from a profit-making firm, because their goal is to be able to maintain that nonprofit in continuity. A business wants to get a profit, but they also want to continue and continue to exist as long as they can as well. All right, so those are the business forms. And I know in the first week, I kind of asked you to pick how you were going to form your business. I don't know if going over this would change your mind. You don't need to change it if you don't want to, but it may change what you want to have in your final paper and what you want to have for your final choice there. But I just want to make sure we went over that. And also, it's just something that, might be something you want to discuss with your legal team. All right, family businesses. Just some quick facts here. Believe it or not, a lot of businesses are owned by families. 80% of the world businesses. Wow. I've worked for a couple myself. And actually, it says here more than half of the nation's GDP, or gross domestic product, 60% of all public companies in the US, 60% of total US employment, 78% of new jobs, and 65% of all wages. Wow, pretty crazy. And many were started after World War II, just food for fact there. More than 25% expect the next CEO to be a woman. More than 30% survive into the second generation. That's not the greatest statistic, but that's good to hear. Family-owned businesses are popular. Like I said, I've worked for at least a couple in my past, and it was neat. They had each other to rely on to share the work with, but then it also had some downsides of family members not always getting along or being able to have one person in charge. I had one business I worked for where there was two brothers and they both thought they were my boss and they would both give me different directions. And it made it really hard as an employee because you would try and please one boss and then the other one would come and be like, no, you should do it this way. Don't listen to him. The other one would, anyway. So you can have some conflict in family business, but also at the same time, the benefit is just that support system of family too. All right, more legal issues. We have trademarks, copyrights, and patents. All right. Trademarks, copyrights, and patents. That's kind of related to your product and your business name. A trademark is your brand name for your product. A service mark identifies services instead of products. So it's just like a trademark, but it's a service instead of a product. Trade name is the name for the business. And you may want to register your mark, your trademark, your service mark, or your trade name so that someone else cannot use it. So again, something you might use a legal team for. You do also want to make sure you're not infringing upon someone else, and make sure that you are not stealing someone else's ideas without even maybe realizing it. And so a product's packaging and trade dress may be protectable and registered as a trademark. And in foreign countries, they do not uphold the trademark laws that we have in the US, so just keep that in mind. They don't have those same laws. All right, copyrights. Copyright protection exists in any original expression of an idea that is fixed in any physical medium. So this kind of is not related to the name of the business. A copyright is usually something you've created within your business. Let's say you're a musician, it might be a composition. You know, that could be something. So it's an original expression of an idea that is fixed in any physical medium. And a website may embody works protectable by copyrights. Copyrights last for 95 years or more. So pretty much once you have something copyrighted, it's good to go. There's no single rule about copyright infringement, but again, you don't want to get sued for that. I just watched a video on people with Etsy stores and them getting taken down and them wondering why. And a lot of times it's over copyright infringement if you're using logos or things that are copyrighted in your products that you're selling on Etsy, then you can be taken down for copyright infringement. All right, so copyrights generally don't have to be registered. A copyright notice is not required for copyright protection. So if you're the original artist, for instance, you don't have to sit there and register it every time for it to be copyrighted. Obviously, if you want to sue someone for copyright infringement, you would have to prove that that work was yours, though. And copyright issues can get quite complex. Again, another reason why you might have a lawyer involved there. I've given a website here for the US Copyright Office if you want to, you know, if you ever need to register copyright, all those kinds of things. Again, it's probably something you'd want to seek legal advice about as well. All right, patents. A patent is a right granted to an inventor. So let's say you made a product that does something really cool and unique. You would probably want a patent so that people can't just copy your product and sell it as their own. And for this, it may only be obtained for new and original inventions. You can't patent something that's already been invented. And once a patent notice can enhance the ability to collect damages from an infringer. So if you see somebody stealing your idea, US patents must be applied for on a timely basis and are only valid in this country. Again, they can steal your ideas in other countries. And despite judicial decisions and proposed changes, patents remain very valuable to most technology companies. It does give them that competitive edge. All right, and here I have a video here that I'm going to go ahead and show. Let me see if I can share my screen here to show that video. There it is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show this video.
So you're a dreamer. Ideas come to you naturally, and you're wondering how to protect them. Well, first things first, you can't protect ideas themselves. You can only protect expressions of an idea. So to receive copyright protection, your original idea would have to be in a fixed form, such as a book, photograph, or recorded song. The good news is that once you create an original work, you own the copyright. However, to better protect your work and prevent others from stealing it, you'll want to officially register it with the federal government. Trademarks, on the other hand, have more to do with business than creativity. The idea behind a trademark is to prevent confusion between the goods and services of one brand to those of another. Just by selling your products or services, you do have some rights. However, officially registering a business name, brand name, logo, or slogan with the federal government gives you additional rights, including nationwide protection of your mark. A registered trademark can also help you stop others from selling goods and services with similar trademarks. Patents are all about innovation. A utility patent protects the way something works, while a design patent protects the way something looks. In order to get a US patent, you have to be the first one to apply for it. Being the first one to invent it doesn't count, but if you aren't quite ready, don't worry. Filing a provisional application saves your peace of mind for up to 1 year and gives you the right to label your invention patent pending. When you're ready to register your copyright or trademark or file a patent, that's where LegalZoom comes in. Simply fill out our online form.
Okay, so you can see that this video was created by a company that is now advertising here, but that was a really good explanation of those three. And you can see that LegalZoom then goes into saying, we can help you with this, which, you know, maybe having some legal help with those isn't such a bad plan. All right, so I just really liked that explanation there, and you'll see there was some other YouTube videos on those if you have some other questions on the differences of those. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share the directions for our assignment. So let me see if I can get back to our class here. There we go. All right. So our first assignment this week, written assignment that is, not discussion, but our first assignment is a logo assignment. And for the logo assignment, I just want to have you practice and just see what you can come up with to create a logo for your business. Some of you I've noticed, like when you've had your ideas, especially the first week, maybe already have a logo in mind or, you know, started. You can go ahead and use that if you already have it done and submit that. If you don't have one, you can create one. And I'll share with you in a minute how to, some ideas on creating one. One way is using the MS Word art tools. Another is to use like a logo making app. Some of them are free, some of them are not. And to please use this lecture as a guide too. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'll add that to the instructions here as well. Please submit as an MS Word file or a PDF file. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to open it. And so make sure if you're using like a free logo maker, there's a way for you to be able to save that logo so that you can either paste it into a Word file or save it as like a PDF or actually a JPEG file works too. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you an idea on how to use the Microsoft Word tools to create a logo. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and just start up a blank document here in Microsoft Word. And one way that you can use Microsoft Word to create a logo is to go over to the Insert menu, and you can just start clicking around on different things. I started to try and make one. I put an arrow over here, and then then you can, I made it an orange arrow. I like an orange arrow. I don't know, it stands out to me. And then, you can kind of, do shadowing, or you can do like a border. I'm going to go ahead and do a border here. Just kind of click around on these tools. You don't have to be an expert. Again, that's in the insert menu. I'm going to then insert a text box so that I can actually type in the name of my product here. Mohaw's Bookkeeping. And then you can kind of see, pick different fonts and effects. Here's some text effects. Let's see here. We got all different things. Here I can move this to the back, send to back, or if you send it to the back, the shape in the front goes anyway, you'll kind of see then the shape now doesn't show because we sent it to the back. Or you can, reposition this kind of thing too. So you can bring it forward, bring it back. Let's see here. And so you got to make sure that you create this to where you want it. Anyway, I could spend a bunch of time on this, and I could, we could spend for, you don't have to do anything too fancy. You don't have to try and figure out all these drawing tools. I'm just showing this to you here to give you this chance to create a logo. Yeah, again, you can be as fancy as you want or as plain as you want, come running into Mohaw's Bookkeeping, yay. Whatever you want as your logo. What's cool about a logo is eventually you'll want to have one, and it's really neat, like to use for your final business plan, to have like on your cover page, and to have as part of your final plan. But again, don't feel like you have to have something super spectacular. I've come up with something really simple here. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this one and just show you another couple of ideas you could use. I had one, let's see here. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I'm sharing the correct area. Here we go. There's a bunch of videos in YouTube. I didn't paste any particular links because everybody has their own style. But there is this program called Canva, which I have used in the past, that lets you kind of use a free version of it. But just make sure that if you use one of these free versions of a software, you're going to have a way to like save your work so you can submit it to me or reuse it. Sometimes they have a catch, like they let you create it and then won't let you do anything with it. I believe Canva's pretty good that once you've done it, they let you to download it, but sometimes it will have like their logo in the back. That way, you have to buy the licensed product to get the actual one, but a lot of times they'll still let you. So I believe Canva is one of those, and this is a video showing you how to use Canva for those of you that want to get more adventurous with your logo making. And there's all these other videos and some different programs. And then another program that I used, let me get over here and share with you. That's Canva, as I talked about. There's one that Microsoft kind of made the app. It's called Logo Maker. And I actually downloaded it. It was a free app. So let me go ahead and share with you. I downloaded it and this screen came up, and you can go to no thanks, so you don't have to purchase it. And it did let me go ahead and, you know, start planning a logo. It was kind of cool, but it does look like it's going to let you save it as a JPEG or a PNG file. So please go ahead and save it as a JPEG file. And because that will be okay. I believe I'll be able to open that fine. And then you can, you know, do that and it will let you save it as a file. So this is kind of cool. One, and to get to this one, I guess I can provide you with that link. I'll provide that in the assignment area. But it's Logo Maker, and it's a Microsoft product. And it was free for me to download the app. Okay, so just a few ideas there. If you look up how to make logos, those kind of things, you'll find some other ideas. Again, try not to stress over this. It's meant to be a little bit more fun and just kind of generate some ideas for what you might want to use for a logo. All right, that's your logo assignment. Your discussion assignment this week is actually, it looks kind of long, but it will really give you a decent bulk of your business plan portion. Assignment will then be done this week with your discussion post. We're all about operations this week, which would include just the management of your business, the human resource management, finance, accounting, marketing, sales, and general operations. How do you plan to cover all of those areas of your business? You know, a sole proprietor might be covering all of them, but address the following items and who will do parts of those. You know, for instance, yourself, partner, employee, outsource. And we're asking about the accounting, the managing, the legal issues, hiring and firing, selling, distributing, advertising. You know, how do you plan to cover those items? And please reply to a classmate by Sunday and have your post here by Thursday. Because, you know, your classmates might have some great suggestions for how they plan to do that. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and before we wrap up, just go back to the presentation here. We talked a lot about legal issues and trademarks, copyright, patents. You also have the chance to license your product. You know what you're doing. And, you know the downsides of product licensing, but the upside is, you know, to get it licensed so other people can't copy it, steal it, etc. But most companies will want a patent to protect that invention there. And again, use an attorney in this case to be, you know, to cover all of your bases and get it really covered or protected. All right. And yeah, anyway, here's just some ideas regarding product licensing. One thing about product licensing I will mention is these kind of tips. You might be like, I'm still not quite sure what they mean. One of my favorite shows, Shark Tank. One of the products, they are usually trying to get the sharks to invest in a portion of their business. But one of the sharks on one of them offered to license the product for them and then was going to actually just buy the product and license it for them. And then they were then kind of not, they didn't really have a business anymore. They sold the product licensing to the shark, and he took that product and licensed it and sold it on his own. And so then he could, anyway. So if this is an option, you just need to make sure you research it. Okay, just a few topics from chapter 11. And this really gets at the heart of operations, not just the legal stuff. Build, maintain, and thrive with a winning team, making sure that you're following the law, but also have the rest of your team, your accounting, your marketing, etc. You as an owner can't do absolutely everything well. There will be some things you either need to outsource or have an employee do, or a partner or something. Explore new ways of putting together a team. I have a friend who's a real estate agent. She actually has a virtual assistant. Interesting, but I think it works well for her. You know, look to see if you have friends, family members, etc., that would be good additions to your team. And investigate using outside sources as needed, or independent contractors. Maybe leasing employees is an option as well, which is kind of like, you know, doing temp to hire, or just getting temp employees. The first employees, some of you are going to start your business with 0 employees, but you may need to hire. Are you going to hire full or part-time? Obviously, you can kind of start with part-time. One way to work into that is hire a temporary worker or an independent contractor and kind of see if it works in towards employment. Yeah. Possibly virtual or outsourcing is an option. You know, Quest is a employment agency. They can start with a written job description. You know, you got to have at least a job description to go out for an employee. But your Quest begins with a short written job description. Sorry, you got to know what you're hiring the person for. Consider new graduates from college. You know, they might be willing to learn. Maybe not as set in their ways. However, we'll have less experience. Consider using employment agencies where they help you find employees, or they, you know, do temp to hire. Online sources such as Indeed.com. You know, some employees will end up leaving. That is inevitable. So there will be some employee turnover. You want to minimize it, but there will be some. You know, again, this whole chapter, your organizational structure and your team. You know, you need team players. You want highly committed people. Look for the attitude of the employee as well as aptitude, meaning their skills. It might help to hire entrepreneurial employees, ones that will add in their own ideas, and self-motivated individuals, especially in the smaller businesses where you might need people to learn other tasks. Learn how to delegate some responsibilities and not try and do everything yourself, and make sure to reward your employees and celebrate your successes. Just a quick rundown of some thoughts with employees. Whether you hire an independent contractor or an employee, independent contractors keeps your overhead down a little bit because you do not have to pay employment taxes and such on them. However, you do need to make sure that they truly are an independent contractor, meaning that they can kind of set their own hours, bring their own tools and materials to the job. If you hire someone and they really are like an employee, but you treat them like a contractor, then the IRS has fines if they catch you doing that. And the rules, as a general rule, it's kind of the relationship. You know, independent contractors work a little bit more independently as far as their work hours and, you know, their work habits and such. And independent contractors tend to already be skilled, and so you're not training them. All right, virtual organizations I mentioned, access to skills and experience of proven experts in the field is what you can get by outsourcing, not having to hire an employee. You just hire for just that task. You could try crowdsourcing as an option too. That's kind of where you go out and get advice or help from the crowds. You know, but with virtual and outsourcing, it helps you pay for only services needed, and could help you achieve better quality and consistency, again, because you might actually be able to get someone that specializes in the service you need. You tend to not have to pay benefits or workers' compensation if you're outsourcing. The virtual assistant, for instance, I told you I had a friend that hired one. She had a lower wage. Her virtual assistant was in another country, and it was cheaper than hiring someone in the United States. I'm not a huge proponent of that because I would like to hire American employees, you know, but anyway, that is an option. Employee leasing, that sounds kind of bad. That's kind of like temp to hire or like temps. That reduces administrative costs because the temp agency goes out and kind of finds the employees for you, and you don't necessarily have to give them benefits because the employment agency is in charge of that. The employment agency also does the background and screening for you. Turnover is reduced and termination issues are eliminated because if you don't want them to come back, you know, the other company, the temp agency you're dealing with is the one that deals with that. Yeah. So anyway, temp agency is an option, especially when you consider that what employees really cost. You know, you have to recruit, you have to hire, there's salary, there's employment taxes, workers' compensation insurance, benefits, you need a space for them, furniture, equipment, you need to train them, any other perks you're giving, training, all different expenses of having an employee. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have employees. Brainstorm your ideal team. What do you really need that you cannot, as the owner or your partnership, provide yourself? How are you going to fill those needs? How are you going to balance the skills and time that you have? When you meet someone, how are they going to fit into your business? You know, and part of this week is, you know, making a list of maybe not specific team member names, but looking at what kind of team members you're going to need. And that will help you make a list of potential team members and who you want to join your team. And again, your team members, you know, you want a healthy employee-employer relationship. It's really hard, boss versus buddy. You hire your friends. Are they going to be willing to have you as their boss? You know, rounding out the personality of your team. You don't want everybody to have the exact same personality. Some businesses use personality tests. If they're, you know, salespeople tend to have, let's say, a more outgoing personality. They might give a personality test to kind of get that person. You know, a winning workplace, you know, helps build strong teams. All right, so some think points for success. People tend to like to hire people just like themselves, but you don't want everybody to be the same. You need balance. I'll just put it that way, but you really have to try hard because you always want someone kind of like yourself because you think you're going to get along with them better, etc. But you need different personality types. Look into your competitors and your vendors for team members. I'm not a proponent for stealing from other businesses, but if someone is actively seeking work or your vendors, like you have an opportunity for someone that works for one of your vendors, you know, they have that experience in your industry and they might be looking for a new fun opportunity. They might be a good team member. You know, you need the right people to grow your business and be successful. And every once in a while, you will make a mistake. You need to terminate them. And that's where the legal counsel might come into play. Make sure that you're legally terminating people. And then a final thought here, you know, how much of your team are you going to let work part-time versus moonlighters, which are people that have like another full-time job and just help you out, you know, and there's other time. You know, those are ways to get part-time employees that are still happy because they have a full-time job and they're just doing this for, you know, extra money. Pros and cons of a virtual organization. Like we said, I had a friend that has a virtual assistant, not the entire organization. And just make sure when you're hiring contractors, you know, the legal ramifications and tax consequences. Consider temp agencies or employee leasing. You know, again, where a lot of this is repetitive, I can feel, you know, but we want to make sure that you get these ideas down when you go to start your own business or you work for a small business out there. All right. So lastly, I just kind of want to end with talking about our week 5 assignment, which is the business plan portion. for week 5, which is all about operations. And you'll see here that I have a document here so you'll need to click into the Dropbox for that document. And let me go ahead and share that document with you. The directions for the business plan part 5 here. I ask you about the business structure, which we've discussed already here. And then I ask you about some key elements of your structure, where you're going to be located, you know, what's your product going to be, what's your pricing structure. Not everything will apply to every business idea. So if it's not applicable, then, you know, that's fine. Discuss technology concerns for your business. You know, are you going to all have computer stations? How are you going to handle your hardware, your software, your IT needs? And what are your plans for social responsibility and sustainability? For those of you from Intro to Business class, we had a chapter where we talked about, you know, businesses have a responsibility to be socially responsible, you know, and make society better and be a good part of society. So whether that be to be environmentally conscious or what are your plans for social responsibility and sustainability with your business idea? You know, you may not have an idea there yet, but just be thinking about it. And then lastly, the last portion here, you're pretty much answering in your discussion post. So you'll kind of have that portion done with your discussion post. So it should be about a page written by the time you've got all these answered. You know, make sure you write your business plan portions in complete sentence format and, you know, paragraph format, rather than just opening this and going location and facilities and saying Warrenton. Your final business plan will need to be in a written paragraph, you know, paper type format. The more you can do that now, the less you'll have to do in revising for your finalized business plan due at the end of the term. So anyway, just a tip there. Otherwise, thank you. And yeah, I look forward to working with you. Or actually look forward to looking at your plans and assignment results this week.